Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Here I have a 5 microcurie source of Cesium-137. This small disc contains an extremely small amount of cesium chloride made with the radioisotope Cesium-137. Even pure uranium is nothing compared to this. We'll measure its radioactivity in a moment, but first let's talk about this sample. The Cesium-137 is enclosed in this plastic disc, and if you look close enough, you can actually see the small grain of the sample on the back of the disc. Here I have 2 radiation detectors, a Geiger counter and a scintillation detector. So here is the sample up close, and if I bring my Radicode in here, you can hear that it gets to a really high dose rate. Even outside the box, you can see that it reads around 30 to 40 microsieverts an hour. And that is pretty high. And all of this is coming from the gamma emissions from the barium-137 that it decays into. If I take it out of the box, you can see that the number is even higher. You can see it's reading around 170, 160, 180, around that range. And that is a pretty high dose rate. It's getting close to 200 even. And if I take it away, it drops back into regular background radiation. So here I have just a cheap old Geiger counter, and even with that, the Geiger Mueller tube, you can hear how many clicks it can count. Never heard of it that loud before. You take it away, it drops off exponentially. This is equivalent to around 40 dental x-rays an hour on contact. Even using the regular Geiger counter, you can hear the high number of clicks. I'd like to point out that Cesium-137 is not typically found in nature. It can only be produced in a nuclear fission reaction, either from a nuclear reactor or from a nuclear detonation. For a fission product, it has a relatively long half-life of around 30 years. This is because the beta- decay it undergoes is forbidden. The Cesium-137 has a spin of +7 halves, while the daughter nucleus, barium-137 metastable, has a spin of -11 halves. This results in a delta J of 4 halves. This means that it has to change angular momentum along with a change in parity from plus to minus. The transition into barium-137 also has a delta J of 2, but there is no change in parity. This makes this transition doubly forbidden. The point is that both of those transitions are somehow forbidden, but the transition into the metastable barium-137M is less forbidden, which is why it occurs over 95% of the time. And because both of these transitions are forbidden, Cesium-137 has a long half-life. Now let's run some gamma spectroscopy on the sample using Radicode 102 right here. As we let the spectrum run, we can clearly see the 662 kilo electron volt gamma photon from the decay of the barium-137 metastable. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Cesium-137 is formed as one of the heavier fission products in a fission reaction. In general, Cesium-137, iodine-131, and strontium-90 are the most dominant isotopes in nuclear fallout. Cesium-137 is very hazardous and problematic for various reasons. First, its 30-year half-life means that it will persist for around 300 years, which is a long time in human standards. Still, 30 years is long enough for small amounts of the substance to be highly radioactive, and that is particularly dangerous as humans have not evolved alongside this isotope. In fact, by mass, Cesium-137 is around 300 million times more radioactive than the well-known uranium-238. Another reason why Cesium-137 is of such a concern is that it is a much more volatile substance, which means it vaporizes and disperses readily in the air. Compare that to uranium, which is also released in nuclear accidents. Cesium-137 is much more hazardous. So not only is it long-lived and highly radioactive, it also spreads out in the air easily. Not only that, it has similar properties to potassium, which is utilized by the body as an electrolyte. This means that the Cesium-137 disperses across the environment. It too will be absorbed by the human body. The good part is, however, is that it is quickly flushed out of the body due to its short biological half-life. Even recently, there has been a few instances of radiological contamination with Cesium-137. Earlier this year, there was shrimp shipped from Indonesia which was contaminated with the Cesium-137 isotope. It was subsequently recalled. And in 2023, there was a source from a density gauge which contained several curies of Cesium-137, and it was lost in Western Australia. That amount was equivalent to 4,000 of these disks. It was eventually found using a Geiger counter. And that's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or subscribe. Thanks for watching.